I am Francesca Gonzalez. I do use she, her pronouns, and I use a lot of other words to describe me. I am a woman. I am a mother. I'm a single mother of 2 amazing children. I am a former foster youth who aged out in 1999. So if y'all know the system, kind of get where I was in that system. And I'm also an executive leader and nonprofit advocate, and I have been for 20 years now. And so I approach work in community, not from a theoretical lens or a book that I read. It's what I lived and it's what I've built. And so at Freedom Forward, that's where I'm the executive director. We're a very small organization in San Francisco. We're one of a few of the anti-trafficking organizations in San Francisco, and we were founded about 10 years ago. And we were founded on the idea that trafficking and exploitation is not an over there and them problem. It's an us and right here problem, right? And so it was founded by 3 women. And these 3 women took a look around the ethos and the landscape of San Francisco and said, wait a minute, there are enough organizations doing really incredible work. So how do we fit into this environment and this ethos of nonprofit work, knowing that anti-trafficking and prevention of CSEC, of exploitation, that is critical work. So what they did is they came up with this idea that they don't have to be another direct service serving organization. Instead, they can be a backbone agency. They can be an agency that provides convening, collaboration, connection, and meaningful experiences to truly change and shift the systems that we're working in that are often perpetuating the exploitation of our young people. So let me pull it back a little bit more. So Freedom Forward, our whole mission is to prevent commercial sexual exploitation of young folks in San Francisco. And we do this specifically by partnering with those with lived experience, so our survivor community, our lived experience community, those that are coming from social services, justice-involved young people, foster youth. We do this with philanthropic leaders. We do it with government officials, with city departments, and with other community members. And most importantly, we do it with a multitude of nonprofit organizations. And our whole goal is to transform these systems that are perpetuating the exploitation of young people. And so at Freedom Forward, I've been there for 4 years now, or going on 4 years. And I'm so honored to say that I came at a time where we were in the thick of 2 incredible pilots with the California Department of Social Services. And these 2 pilots were literally building multidisciplinary teams in how we can better work together, right? As the adults in the room who have the power, the privilege, and the platform, how do we work together better so that we are supporting young people in a more holistic and healing-centered way? And so we were able to pilot 2 programs, two processes with them. One was an intervention process, and this was our foster care model. It's called FAM. It stands for Family and Me. And if y'all want to know more about it, my information is going to be on the screen soon, and so you'll be able to contact me, and I'm happy to share more. The model that I'm going to talk about today is actually our drop-in space. So it's a multi-service drop-in center, and it has, we co-locate over 35 different partners. I'm going to get into that later, but the drop-in space is an incredible hub for young people 14 to 24. And we just wrapped up those pilots December 2025, and I'm very pleased to say that we actually exceeded expectations in both of those categories, in both those pilots. And so much so that now our drop-in space is now fully embedded into the city and county of San Francisco. I'm very proud to say, yes, y'all, we are the only nonprofit in San Francisco that's focusing on prevention of CSEC and of young people 14 to 24. We're the only safe space that focuses on that. And so it was critical to prove that this was a necessary, function and platform and format for young people and for prevention. So the reason why we exceeded, though, these expectations It's actually not because we built anything new or we did anything like super, innovative. All we did is we just collaborated differently and we coordinated better, right? We made it make sense. So before we go any further, I do want to set just a few expectations for what this work actually looks like. So if you could please go ahead and go to slide 1, my friend, actually the next one. There we go. Thank you. This work is not clean. It deals with people, right? It's real work, it's real people, it's real time, it's messy. So it's complicated, it's really difficult, and it can be really, really, really frustrating at times because it requires constant adjustment and constant reframing of what we thought we knew was working. And it challenges us to show up differently. It challenges us to remain flexible. It forces us to challenge the norms that we know, but it works and it's worth it. So that's why I really want us in the next time that we have together, I just want to ground us in the 3 points that I'm going to be making throughout this entire presentation that you're going to hear me talking about. It's the framework, right? And so we really have to ground ourselves in these 3 realities. So if you go to the next slide, please. So it's the problem, the solution, and the urgency. So, like I said, everything today is going to revolve around these 3 things. And the goal is, my hope is that today that, after these 45 so minutes together, that y'all will be able to walk away with at least one tangible thought, idea, action, response that you're like, yes, I'm going to take this back. I'm going to take it back to my org, to my team, to my department, to my work, whatever it is. Because that's really what's important, right? We really want to be able to receive information that we can actually use in real time. And so that's what I'm going to challenge everyone to do, okay? Think about what pieces of this could you take with you so that you can work in your partnerships a little different. Next slide. So we're going to start with the problem. Right now, our system is not built to handle complexity at all. When someone does not fit neatly or nicely into a service category, they get passed around. And they get passed around from agency to agency when they don't fit that nice little neat box. And I know Alia was talking about that earlier in her presentation. And so what I like to call this effect, I'm sure y'all remember this game. It's the hot potato, we were like, not it, right? And it's kind of like that, right? Where it's like, if you don't fit this category and you don't fit this category, but if you have these intersecting needs, no one is actually able to support you. And so when no one's able to meet the full scope of needs of a person, of a survivor, it's actually not our fault. It's not the agency's fault. It's not the organization's fault. It's not the people's fault. It's actually the way that it was set up. It's the way that it was designed. How many of you are from a nonprofit in here? Y'all understand what I'm saying, okay? They built us to remain in silos. They have us competing against each other for funding so that we can all meet the same community. It makes no sense at all, right? So it was set up this way. So when we're set up that way and we're all working with our blinders on and we're all working in our silos, not to anybody's fault, but because this work is hard and you kind of have to sometimes put your head down to just get the work done, right? But what that's showing is that we're not actually resource poor. We're coordination poor, right? I often say in San Francisco, it's one of my taglines, San Francisco is very, very resource rich. And we are incredibly coordination poor. We have so many nonprofit organizations that are in the same niche sector of their work that don't even know what the other organization is doing. So then just think about, with the few anti-trafficking organizations that we have, how that can compile. And so, again, we're not lacking services. We're lacking alignment, okay? And I want to kind of paint a picture of what failure actually looks like in real time. Next slide, please. So when the system can't handle complexity, this is what happens. And I'm going to share a couple of examples here. I'm sure all of you are going to be like, yeah, I know that one. So let's start with a transitional age young person who is known to have substance use disorder and issues. And they also have an emotional support dog. And they are escaping a very unsafe situation where they are engaging in survival sex in order to get their basic needs met. But this last time, I said, I'm done. I've had enough. I want out. I need help. So they go and they try to get help. But because they're a young person who has a dog that has substance use issues, no shelter will take them. So what happened? That young person went back out on the street. That's what happens. Next one. I know you've heard this one too. Had a monolingual youth who was actually trafficked in from Peru. And she was actually living in an SRO. We had gotten her to a place where she had like supportive housing. But her exploiter had found her and had abused her and found her in the SRO and abused her in the SRO. And so we needed emergency, like in the moment, right now. I need to get this young person moved and I need to get them safe right now because where they're living, not safe. When I tell you I called every single shelter in San Francisco, and every single one of them told me that they couldn't take her. And it was either because she wasn't domestic violence or because, we were looking for not a shelter, but an actual maybe hotel voucher or somewhere where there was a room where she could have a door that she could shut and lock and feel safe. No one in the city of San Francisco could help me. And so what did I do? What most survivors do. I called a survivor friend and I was like, yo, I need help. I got this girl and I need somewhere safe. Like, do you know anyone? Can you help me? And they were like, bet, give me 5 minutes. They hung up. They called 2 people in the North Bay. Within 5 minutes, I had those people's numbers. I was on the phone with them and we were coordinating how to get this young person up to Santa Rosa because they were going to do a relo share for her. There's one more. And this is actually a local one. So young woman, 32 weeks pregnant, human trafficking survivor in the ER. Nurse, freaking out, really not knowing what the protocol is, what to do, how to help this person. The 2 shelters that exist, one is a gender-based violence shelter, right? Thinking, okay, we can put her there. Well, no, they can't take her because of her medical condition, because she's pregnant. And then the shelter that supports women with children won't accept her because she's a human trafficking survivor. Make it make sense. Like, really, make it make sense. This is not care. This is displacement. This means that this person, they're, again, calling a separate county, can you help, and then getting them to another county. That is not care. That's not consideration. That's not compassion. That's displacement. That's re-traumatization, right? And so again, it's not a lack of services, it's a lack of integrated response, okay? And we know this, we know that survivors are not experiencing our systems in silos. So we cannot operate any longer in silos. It's not working. We know that. Every single one of us in this room, we're here because we know it's not working and we need to do something different, right? And like I said earlier, in this room, we all have the power, the privilege, the platform to do something different, to change the system, because systems itself, I was just saying the systems, the big capital S system, y'all, we ain't gonna change that. Like, it's gonna take forever to change that. But what we can do is we can do the little s systems change, which means like us people that are working inside the system, we can choose to show up differently. We can choose to say, you know what, today I'm gonna take a healing-centered lens. I'm gonna look at this young person, this person that I'm working with, this survivor. I'm gonna look at them through the lens of what they want to be and who they want to be, not what was done to them, right? And so we have that power, privilege platform. So it's time for us to really start using it, right? So if we know that if we want to be trauma informed and we want to be healing centered, then collaboration, right? It has to be in service of the survivor, not in service of the organization or the deliverables or the outcomes. So if that's the problem, then the question becomes, well, like what's actually working then, right? So next slide, please. And I can tell you this, the solution is not more programs. Let me say that again. No more programs. We don't need more programs, okay? What we need to work better together, right? So honestly, what's working for us in San Francisco is coordinated care of existing services and resources. It's a multiple disciplinary, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Multiple disciplinary. You know, it's because I haven't had my coffee. I told y'all to have your coffee and I haven't had mine. Multidisciplinary team, woo, okay, of supporters anchored in one central hub, with one organization being the managing lead backbone organization. It's a hub where services are co-located, where there's alignment, and where we're able to respond together, where referrals do not become another number in a queue, but they are held with care and concern and compassion and consideration for the individual. And a place where coordination doesn't just happen in crises, but is built intentionally. And believe it or not, this coalition and the Family Justice Center here in Santa Cruz can be that hub for you. Like it could, yes, this is exciting, y'all. This is not, again, I told you, this is not theory. This can happen. We can make it work, right? We have the model. We know it can work. And I'm ready to share it. And I know Rebecca and her team and those that are working so hard in Santa Cruz, I know y'all want it. So let's do it. So when it's done well, what a multidisciplinary team and central hub does, 3 things. Next slide, please. Provides access that's not just accessibility, but it's the ability to enter safely through any door for any need, for any reason, at any time. It builds trust through consistency and through efficiency. That last one's really important. And it enables action. It enables us to truly have a coordinated response system to respond in real time to real needs when a survivor is ready. So I want to take a little bit of time to actually explain and show you what that kind of looks like in practice. So next slide, please. I gotta say, I'm so incredibly proud of this particular model because it's something that personally I helped operationalize from the moment I got to Freedom Forward. And again, it's a one-of-a-kind model in San Francisco. And it is the only space where we are truly trying to transform how young people are interacting with services, resources, organizations, and each other. And so the HYPE Center, which stands for Helping Young People Elevate, is a multi-service drop-in space in San Francisco. And we co-locate over 35 different organizations under one roof, whether that's coordinating referrals or having our organizations literally in the building with us physically under that one roof, over 35 partners. And this includes housing, mental health, wellness, employment, legal, education, wellness services. It runs the gamut. But it's funny because young people actually don't come in seeking those services. They come in for basic needs. So along with all of those services, we also have free laundry, a shower, clothing boutique that is set up like an actual boutique, not bins on the floor they have to sift through. It's a shopping experience because they're deserving and worthy of it. Hygiene products, full size, beauty products, full size, baby items. These are all needs, right? Basic needs of young people, and they're not getting those needs met in a safe way, so they come to the HYPE Center in order to get those needs met. And so that's what gets them in the door. And that's honestly what keeps them coming back. And then our engagement model is actually really incredibly simple. Dignity and respect as a birthright. It's not something to be earned. It's not something that you need to perform for. There's no transactional, relationships or performance required in order to get basic needs met. We have a very, very, very low barrier intake. It takes 5 minutes. And it's all self-selected. There's only very little information that we're requiring from them. And honestly, it's really just, is there a way that we can contact you? What do you want to be called and what's your birthday? Because we have to be able to, have them within our age range. But other than that, we're not asking them to trauma dump, because they don't need to trauma dump in order to get a shower, in order to get a hot meal, in order to get a muni token, to get back safe. They don't need to do all of that. And so without the pressure to perform, and without these like transactional interactions and relationships, what we're doing is we are building trust over time, right? Because again, lived experience, survivor leader, I have a team full of lived experience individuals. We all fully understand in our body, in our soul, that trauma is held in the body. And a body cannot respond to services and resources if a body is on 15, right? The nervous system needs to come down to be able to just be, just relax, just chill, give a moment to breathe. And so when they have that space, when they've been able to relax, when they've been able to just be, that's when we start to see the relationships form, the rapport building, and that's when they start to open. And over time, when, again, those needs are consistently met, then we realize, we're actually working with a population that is A, much more resilient than we knew, but B, is much more under-resourced than we ever imagined. Like, have y'all tried to navigate the systems that we're in yourself as an adult? Like, just go on to like a department website, city, any kind of social service, and you're like, wait, what do I? Now imagine doing that as a 22-year-old young person who's been living in toxic stress and trauma for their entire life. Come on, that's not gonna happen. So we know that we can't push, we can't force, we cannot trick people into services. It's not a carrot and stick method. It's not like you're, wrapping, what is it, when you give dog medicine, you wrap it in cheese and you're trying to it's not, just go ahead. You don't know what's in there. We can't do that because, and Alia even said it will sniff that BS out faster than a hound dog. And oh my goodness, like we don't want to be perpetuating that type of trauma, right? We want to be able to meet them in their realness, right? Real recognizes real. Because again, that type of behavior, that trickery, that coercion, that's all too familiar, right? And it will be shut down immediately. So our goal in this space is to be a holder of space, to be a container, to be there when they are ready, with no strings attached, with no expectations, and knowing that it's on their timeline because it's their journey, ours. And this is not anecdotal. Because we were a pilot, I actually engaged with an external evaluation team. So we've been evaluating this model over the past 3 years and across about 200 young people with more than 600 assessments of self-sufficiency and self-efficacy. And the data tells us 3 really important things. 1, that the model works, and it works best for young people with the highest level of need. 2, that staying connected matters more than how much service someone gets at one time. Let that one really sink in. Staying connected matters more than any one service. And the strongest driver of change is employment, with mental health and wellness closely behind. And that's kind of like obvious, right? What's that first step to building independence, autonomy, and liberty and freedom, right? What's better than your own financial freedom, right? And those building blocks to financial mobility and stability. So we know that the model will work. We know that it works well. And we know that literally, quite simply, that when young people believe that they can, they will, right? That's that self-efficacy, right? Do you believe that you have the ability? Do you have the confidence? Do you have the connections? Do you have safe, loving relationships that you can depend on? Do you know how to seek out help? And self-sufficiency is those tangible things that we all want to see survivors getting to, that like end goal, like, oh, they're housed, they're employed, their mental health is increasing, and their education, they got childcare, and they got all the things. That is all fantastic. But if someone doesn't believe that they can get there, they're never getting there, right? I mean, we all know this, right? Like, nothing that I'm saying today is innovative. All right. I'm just packaging it in a way that is like, I'm telling you it works because we've tried it and we proved it, and we proved it in one of the hardest cities, because we truly do have probably one of the most disengaged, transitional aged population of young people ever, because of the gentrification and misplacement that's happened in the city. So we know that it works. But it will only work if we truly stop expecting people to be ready when we are. Next slide, please. So Alia also talked about this in the stages of change, right? And honestly, y'all, it's the reality. We have to design around the fact that every stage is an entry point. Every need, every interaction, every partnership, it is an opportunity to connect. And every stage is also an exit point. We have to not only remember, but we have to truly embrace that engagement is not linear. Neither is healing, right? You've heard that 2 steps forward, like 10 steps back. It happens, right? This is a part of that harm reduction, right? What's just one little thing, one thing that we can do different. But we have to remember that we don't control it. We don't control their timeline. We don't control the outcome. We control how we show up in the space, because the timeline isn't ours, it's theirs. And so any point can be an open door, but also any point can be disengagement. So I truly challenge y'all, remember this. How are you showing up? How can you check yourself in the morning, whatever it is that you need to do to be like, okay, today I am going to look at this person in front of me and I'm going to see them for their full potential, and I am not going to focus on their trauma. I'm not going to focus on what was done to them. Have you ever asked a survivor? This is my favorite question to ask a survivor, especially when I first meet them. What did you want to do when you're little? Right? Gets them right out of that kind of trauma brain, right? And then you start to see, oh, I really wanted to work with animals, or I really loved watching my baby cousin, or I wanted to be a ballerina, or whatever it is, right? But you start to open up and you start to see this person as a person and not a survivor, not a victim, but as a human being and in their full potential. So then the question becomes, right, if people can come in at any point, what actually gets them coming back? Next slide, please. In all my years of working in nonprofit and in community and with young people, so my entire career, y'all, outside of the work that I did working with elders, has been working with young people. And I think it's honestly because I was a young person. I was 13 when I entered into the system. And so I remember that like it was yesterday, what it felt to be this like already angry, angsty teenage girl, but then on top of the fact that I was familial exploited and was been through, my string of, of trauma. Oof. But one thing remains true. People need to think that you care before they care what you think. And so we don't approach this work through deliverables, through outcomes, through impact, any of that. Because We don't lead with services. We lead with belonging. Exploitation thrives in isolation, in fear, in coercion, in loneliness. So we're the antithesis of that, right? So our participants, we don't call them clients. They're members. They're members of our community. That little word shift is so big. Because imagine you're a young person who has never actually been a part of anything. Everything that you've been a part of, including your own family unit, has done harm. So you've never been a part of anything. So then now you're a part of something. You're a member of a community. It's like you're a member of this really cool club of like young people that all look and are in similar situations as you. And we take an Ubuntu approach. And I am not talking about the operating system, y'all. I am talking about the African philosophy of emphasizing that a person is defined through their relationships with others, embodying compassion, community, and interconnectedness. Again, because we are not looking at people at who they were or what was done to them, but who they can become and who they want to be. And so what we found is that trust is the intervention and that community is the cure. But even when like all the trust is built and you have all the things in place and you got all the partners and you got the beautiful space and you got it all, there is always one thing that, oh my gosh, is like the bane of all of our existence. And I know it. And so if you could please go to the next slide. Timing is everything. It's everything. Because even when people are engaged, even when they are so connected, if we are not ready when they are, we will lose them. And we all know the scenario. Friday, 4 p.m. Thank you. I knew one of y'all was going to be like, yep, I've been there. Friday, 4 p.m. You get the phone call and you're like, because you know everyone's already checked out for the weekend. You're trying to make a call, emails are going unanswered. You're like, is anyone picking up a phone? Please, you're literally about to get in your car and go knock on someone's door and be like, can you please help out, right? And it's crazy, right? So no one's available for an intake. And now we have a survivor with this short window of time, this very small window of opportunity that if we do not act and act now, they are already making plans to go back to what they know. It takes seconds, milliseconds for an exploiter, a trafficker to find their person. That's all it takes. So we need to be prepared. We need to be ready when they are. So if we cannot coordinate in the moment, we will absolutely lose them. And honestly, the consequence is, we know what the consequence is, y'all. They're going to go back to what they know. They're going to go back to harm. And then we're not on their, it's their timeline, right? We're not dictating that. So we don't know when that next window of opportunity is going to show up. And so we really need to, again, think about how do we, if we're all trying to work towards the same solution, how do we do it better? How do we coordinate it better, right? Because it can't be tomorrow, it can't be Monday. It has to be right now when a survivor says, I'm ready, I want out, I want help, I need this thing. We need to be ready. Which truly means none of this works without collaboration. Next slide, please. And honestly, you cannot build collaboration in crises, y'all. It's got to be built way before and with intention, because partnerships are not transactional. It's people in these organizations, so we need to treat these people in relationship. We are in relation with one another, right? And so it's not an email chain. It's a relationship with an understanding and with a mutual respect. When I got to Freedom Forward, we had about 2 partners with the Hype Center. It was right after, it was like during COVID. It was like open up, shut down, open up, shut down, open up. Like no one knew what the hell was going on. And, we had Annie Cannons, which was an incredible organization. If y'all don't know them, you should. They are a fantastic organization. And we had West Coast Children's Clinic, which is also a great organization. And they do the See It tool training. So please, if you have not done that, please do so. Those are my 2 plugs. But those were our 2 partners. And I was like, yo, we're trying to run a multi-service drop-in space, but we got 2 partners and one of them's online. Like, how is this working? So I built those partnerships one by one. And now, like I said, we have over 35. And it was based on community feedback. It was based on what was needed, what was missing, what was working, what wasn't working. And that was the most important part. We needed to hear from our community, what is not working for you? And then when we brought on new partners, we needed to make sure that they were aligned with our goal, with our mission, with our focus. Because again, as a backbone agency, we have the ability to be nimble, to be flexible, to dig in and say, actually, why did that happen? And we can ask the why 5 times, and we can get to the root cause, right? Because we have the freedom and the flexibility to do that because we're not tied to all of the deliverables and outcomes that most organizations are. So we sit in that privilege, and we know that. But new partners are actually asked to take a trauma-informed assessment that was designed by a survivor. And this is a very intentional tool and step that we have in our process because we need to make sure, if I were to call your organization, is someone going to pick up? Because if no, then we have some work to do, right? If you said that you were going to be somewhere at this time, were you there? When a young person walked in your space, did someone look up and greet them? Or were they just, or not even said anything to them, they just walked in, right? So we needed to make sure that these folks were aligned with how we wanted to work with young people, not what we were doing, y'all. It's not the what, it's the how. And we knew that, and we knew that we had to assess the how. We had to make sure that if we were going to call ourselves a multi-service drop-in space that was safe for young people to access services and resources that they identified that they needed, we needed to make sure that whatever organization we were bringing under that roof was not going to perpetuate more harm, right? Because we know that there can be some really well-intended organizations, right, with really well-intended people, but intentions and impact are 2 different things. And when they don't align, that's when we have a lot of work to do, right? And so we really needed to make sure, are these organizations aligned? Do they really see the vision that we see, that San Francisco truly could become the hardest city to traffic young people in, right? And so we have them do this assessment. We take them through a very robust training and onboarding process. We make sure that there is ongoing support for our partners. But even with all of that in place, even like with all of the little ducks in a row, over the years, we have had to make so many different iterations, so many different adjustments. I've had to have so many hard conversations with organizations where I've had to say, we've received this feedback, and this is how this landed with our community. Let's talk about it. Is there anything that we can do to support you? We have this support. We have this training. We have that, right? We're trying to work with them. But if they can't meet those markers, I've also had those hard conversations where I said, you know what, thank you, but I don't think it's gonna work anymore for us here. We can continue to use you as a referral partner, if we need to, right? But they won't be co-located under our roof. And I know that's harsh, because organizations are made up of people, right? And these are people with real feelings and they're good intentions. But our community deserves compassion and accountability. Thank you. Yes. So how do we actually keep it going? How do I herd 35 stray cats all in one space? And how do I make sure that we're like all on the same page? Next slide, please. So partnership, as you know, it doesn't just happen. It has to be built, maintained, and to actually sustain it over time and sustain that coordination, we've found that for us, what works best is a community of practice. And so what that looks like is ongoing, open, honest communication with all of our partners that we know needs nurturing and tending to. And so we have monthly meetings, 2 hours, which I know it was very hard getting commitment. And I'll go into that in a second for a 2-hour meeting. But we meet for 2 hours with at least 4 in-person meetings a year, and where we can break bread together and where we can really, dig into case consultation. We can share challenges and successes. We can come up with resources and solutions together, and we can share skills and trainings and learnings. And so what that builds, right, is open, transparent communication where there's reciprocal feedback happening across the table. Because y'all, we don't have it all figured out. I mess up like 50,000 times a day, but I also own it. And I'm like, all right, yep, made that mistake. Okay, just keep moving forward. Let me learn from it and keep going. But if we don't have that open feedback loop, if we don't know, oh, wait, I was intended and this is how it landed. If no one's telling me how it landed, I'm over here like, ooh, I'm doing the right thing, but no, I'm not, right? So we needed that reciprocity of feedback. We have shared data collection. Talk about that in a minute. Shared learning and training, shared case consultations, and like I said, shared solutions, but even more importantly, we do shared self-care. That part's really important because for us especially, we really want to make sure that our organizations, our partners really know that we care about them as a whole human. So we actually implemented this really cool, every month we host a 4-hour provider wellness session. And it's through one of our wellness providers, and they can just drop in and get like Reiki work done or breath work or yoga or do some herbalism or get some acupressure. Like it's really, really cool. Because, you know the term, put the mask on yourself before you put it on anybody else. We never put the mask on ourselves. We're always putting it on someone else. And so I really wanted to create a space where, I could help put the mask on some folks. But this was not easy to get started, y'all. Oh my goodness. It took us at least 2 years to get our community of practice up and running and fully functioning. I was sending emails, follow-up emails, follow-up emails to the follow-up emails, follow-up emails to those. I was chasing people down, coffee chats, lunch dates. I was hounding people. I was begging people to show up. I was incentivizing. I was like, what can I do? What song and dance do you need me to do so that you know that this is important, right? And so, and like, not to mention like the whole like, wait, you want me to sit in a 2-hour meeting for what, right? Like another meeting on their plate. But we got us there. And like I said, it is highly incentivized. We do pay our providers to come to these meetings. I feel, especially as a survivor standing on this stage, everyone deserves compensation for their time, their energy, their effort, and the value that they're bringing to the table. And so that value, that contribution that they bring, and it's a small little, I give them a like $10 coffee card, but it's something, and it shows them I value your voice here at this table. So thank you so much for showing up, right? So we incentivize those. Like I said, we have these wellness, these wellness like little mini retreats that we do inside the center. And we're in constant communication. They have weekly check-ins with with the center manager. And because they're on our height floor, we see them all the time. So we are constantly in communication. So this becomes a true like community hub of feedback, shared learning, shared practices. And I know that sounds so like, oh, puppy dogs, rainbows, and like, yay, it can happen. But there's still a huge hurdle after all of that. Next slide. And I know Rose is going to talk about this a little bit, but it's around information sharing. And, y'all, like the ROI process, y'all know, like it can be weeks up to months to actually get another organization or to get someone to sign, to like countersign a release of information, right? And the impact is that delays, like that can delay someone literally their freedom, right? And it can delay information sharing, which truly impacts safety and engagement. And it is possible, because we figured it out to do it, it is possible to have consultation without identifying information. It is actually really possible to do this, because if you set it up in the beginning, right, this is how we did it. Our approach is, look, we're going to let our partners know this is how we do data sharing. This is how the data is input. And then this is how we share space in the community of practice. We use no identifying information, but we will talk about the issue that is bubbling, right? So that we can work together to solve it. And we let our members know, which is even more important. During their intake process, we let them know, hey, we partner with all of these other organizations. It is your choice. You can opt out of this. But it would be very beneficial to you and for us to serve you better if you're okay if we talk amongst each other, not sharing detail about your story or about your situation, but to just say like, hey, I've got blah, 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 and to be able to do a quick connection, right? Without having the like pile of paperwork that builds up. And so, of course, ROI should always be used, when it is absolutely necessary. But those need to be done timely, because the survivor support, it cannot be delayed, right? We all know that. Because let's be real, we really don't actually need to know every full detail of their story to just get them into immediate safety, right? Like, we're not talking about long-term intake. I'm not talking about the long road. I'm talking about in the moment right now, get them to safety. You don't need to do the full gamut. Do what's necessary. And honestly, like, if we're really serious about like showing up differently and changing these systems and figuring out, okay, we don't need to do this piece to get to that part. We can do this little step and it will get us just as far. We need to be really clear about who is at the table, who is informing, who is guiding what it is that we're doing. Next slide, please. And we all know those closest to the problem are always closest to the solution. But I really want to drive this one home because I see it all too often, and it just perpetuates the harm and honestly the exploitation of people. Survivors need to be included in the design, the planning, the implementation, the execution, the evaluation, and the innovation. Okay? Don't just, what do you think about this one thing? And, okay, great. Yeah, we'll check in with you later. No, that's listening to their story, listening to their need. That's exploiting their story if you're not using that information to make change, right? So lived experience, it's not just a perspective, it's expertise. Those that have lived through the system, those that have been closest to the issue will know exactly what is needed for the solution. And so, and honestly, with all due respect, y'all, the degrees, the trainings, the conferences, these are all great, but they will never replace lived experience. And so theory, right, is just words without intention. And we already talked about intention and intentional action. And good intentions do not guarantee good outcomes. So I want to tell you a little story. Can I get a quick time check, though? I just want to make sure where I'm at. How much longer do I have? To what? Thank you. Okay. So I'll tell this really quick then. HYPE was founded by young people with lived experience, survivors, those in juvenile justice and in foster care system. They did a community needs assessment in San Francisco and assessed over 150 young people, asking what's needed, what's missing, what's working, what isn't working, what could be done better, and what do you need? And that's how HYPE was founded and formed. They informed everything from the providers and the services that we use, to the type of furniture that is in the space, to what is decorated on the walls, to literally what food we eat and what movies we play on the TV. They are a part of everything. And we sustain that through a youth advisory board. And we ensure that that lived experience, that voice is constantly in everything that we do. And so it's one thing to just pull up a chair, but what we've done is we've built an entire table and we've invited them to come and to eat and to live and to breathe and to eat this work with us, right? And so we've been able to do it regularly, to sit with the discomfort, to be told that's not working and that's the stupidest thing that I've ever heard and you're perpetuating more harm. And I'm sorry, white lady, I don't care what kind of lived experience you have, you don't know shit about shit, right? You have to sit with that discomfort and be like, yep, you're right. Let me figure out how I can do better, right? And that's not this thing, shame, oh, I need to do better. It's a real, we got to do better, y'all. So when we get it right, when we get the information sharing, the collaboration, the community of practice, the lived experience experts, we really have to start collectively redefining what success looks like. Next slide, please. And so many survivors are not ready, right, or may never choose to come forward for prosecution, to leave the life, whatever. They might never choose that. But that doesn't actually mean it's not a success, right? We may be ready, but it's not our decision. Success is defined by a survivor. It's their survivor empowerment. So success is honestly self-determination. It's self-efficacy. Did that person, after being in your care, were they able to gain just an ounce more self-confidence so that they can pour into their own cup the autonomy, independence, and liberation and freedom that was ripped away, right? Because when someone takes just even one small step towards autonomy, that is success. And it's because they chose it. And the choice is what matters. There is no choice in exploitation and trafficking. I don't care what anybody says. And you can fight me until I'm blue in the face and until you're blue in the face. No one chooses this life. It's not a life, it's death. No one chooses it, right? And so when someone can choose what their next step is, that in itself is a success. It counts. So I know that we were going to have a little table discussion, but I don't think we have time to do that. But I do want to challenge y'all to think about, what is one thing that you could do differently tomorrow at work, in your organization, in your work, in your role, and whatever it is, whatever function you have in this work. What's one thing? Is there any one thing that you were like, ooh, that sounds easy. I could do that. You don't have to say it, write it down, anything. Just sit with that. What is one thing that you could do better? Because honestly, at the end of the day, it really comes down to taking the first step, right? And so, we know that when we step back from all of this, we've talked about the problem. We've talked about that there's a lack of coordination. We've talked about a solution, that there is the possibility for a multidisciplinary team and hub agency here in Santa Cruz, right here where y'all are working. Talk to Rebecca. She has the answers. And we talked about urgency, that timing truly is everything, right? That we know we don't need more services. We need to align what we already have. And we need to listen to survivors, and we need to take action. And most of all, we just need to work better together. And we need to be ready when it matters. I really appreciate your time. On the very last slide, it has our website and my email address. One thing about Freedom Forward is we actually, we are an organization that wants to share everything that we're doing. Yes, we need more of that, right? Like, we're not in competition, y'all. We're all going for the same goal. We're all serving the same community. And so all of our learning reports are online, and everything that we've done, everything that we've built And everything that we failed at is online. You can see it and you can learn from it. A part of my role as the executive director is to go out and talk about these models because they work. And we want to be able to share them, and so that you can implement something like this in your space. I would love to see a hype center in every city, town, region of California, of the nation. Like it's truly a transformative space. I welcome all of you to please come check it out. Shoot me an email. We do tours all the time. I would love for you to see it, because when you walk in the space, there's a few people that are in this audience that have been there. When you walk in this space, you can feel it. Like you can feel that there is a difference in the space, and that difference is what truly, it's that secret sauce of like the how we do things. And it really does mean that when someone walks in the door, "Hey, Rose, it's so good to see you today. How are you? Let us know if you need anything. By the way, mental health is in the first room if you need any support today, and we got some food in the fridge. Go ahead, get something to eat." That's not an individual, like that's not like an isolated, that we do that with every person that walks through the door. Think about that. Like that takes nothing. It just means that we're just showing a little bit more humanity, you know, and bringing that into the work. So I'm happy to share anything that we've learned. I'm happy to be of any type of assistance. Like I said, I want to see hype centers. I want to see multidisciplinary teams everywhere. We can do it. We can work better together. It just takes, I guess it just takes really the desire, right, to want to. And I'm pretty sure that if you're here, y'all want to. So thank you very much.